My good point is actually, this isn't on brand, but it is if you hear the way I explain it, right? I'll give you I'll take, since Nero's never been on the show before, I'll bring you into the magical world of anecdotes about my life, Nero. So when I was a boy, you won't be able to relate to this because you're one of these Zoomers, aren't you, with the Sky TV and the internet and all that jazz, looking up highlights on YouTube. Never had all that when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, Nero, you have to understand, obviously you couldn't watch Premier League football because that was only on Sky and you had to pay loads of money for it, didn't you? So what you had to watch when you were a boy, believe it or not, is actually superior football at the time. What we had to watch was Serie A because Serie A used to be for free on Channel 4 on a weekend, right? Because obviously it wasn't blacked out, and obviously at the time football wasn't a globally exported thing, so I'm sure they got it very cheap. But the joke was, I would be watching what actually, like I say, inadvertently was actually a superior level of football at the time, and I would watch it, and believe it or not, I used to watch it and go, this is rubbish, man. Like, nothing's ever happening. Like, all they do, look, they just tackle them all. Like, they never get to score a goal. Because if you don't know, famously, Serie A in Italian football is, like, very defensive-minded. It's all about defensive schemes. And essentially, the dream, famously, the Italian football team used to do this. The dream is to just win 1-0, to just score your goal, just defend correctly, and just win, like, the sort of, like, the most efficient way possible. So I used to watch these matches, Nero, and think, this is crap. Like, I want to watch, like, you know, end-to-end football like you do when you're a kid. You know, I want people just booting the ball up from the goalie and then just take a shot straight away. And what I actually had to learn was that, look, it isn't like for a random fan the most aesthetically pleasing form of football. It's obviously going to be very frustrating. But the reason I actually had to learn it was mega is because it meant, Nero, when a player did come along who could actually score loads of goals in Serie A, I knew they were like actually like a god, basically. It was like, holy fuck. But if they can essentially do that, what you do against normal defense, against the Italian, then they're just the best. So this is going to be my good point. My good point is actually what would be a nightmare for some people, which is they're back. Virtus.pro are totally back, guys. It's not a rumor. It's not a smoke signal. They're back. They're just fully back. They're back. They're doing all the shenanigans. They actually do have better firepower than they used to with the line that won the major. And I'll tell you right now, I don't know how high they can go because they were never actually the best team, but like they are going to torture so many teams in these tournaments now that they're back. And the reason I gave that anecdote, Nero, is I'm like everyone else. On one level, I do despise the way Virtus.pro plays the game. Like, it's clearly not aesthetically enjoying. It actually does sort of ruin the way other teams play the game. But to use the anecdote before, what I do love about this team, and I learned to appreciate, especially in this period actually where they weren't at a bunch of events, is I want teams like that out there as a sort of like obstacle course for the other top teams. I want to actually see, like, if G2's banging everyone's head in, tell you what then, there's the fucking what the doctor ordered. Have a game against Virtus.pro, full 3-map session on some shit maps, and let's see actually, can you play all the forms of Counter-Strike now? Can you actually play every type of game? Can you actually escape? Because essentially to me, James just like fucking Jigsaw, isn't he? He's like, haha, you want to play a game? It's like, you're not actually about, like, it's not good Counter-Strike. He's not here to win or anything. He's just here to ruin people's lives and pay them back through, I don't know, late round play or something. So what do you guys think? Is anyone else a fellow, like, I can't say VP enjoyer. Essentially, I just sort of, for me, enjoying VP is like that thing, you know, like some men just want to see the world burn. Like, essentially, that Michael Caine thing out of Dark Knight, in it. I just like to see the world burn when a team liquid a G. I like to see these squads have to go up against VP. Just, why shouldn't they? They should have to put up with that shit.
I actually love watching VP, but one disclaimer here is when I'm not co-streaming games, I watch a lot of games back at 2x speed. Like, that's where it's very enjoyable, because then you get to just watch games back on the VOD and you're like, okay, what was VP starter in this round? Okay, it didn't work. Okay, I can just skip to the next round now. Watching it live, that's
oh, I see. Right, that's a good point. That's a good distinction.
Yeah, if I'm watching it, if I can just skip around, it's really, really interesting, because I'll understand their entire flow chart for how James thinks about the game. But for VP, actually, you'll hate this one, but honestly, I think Norbert's quite solid on a few maps for them, actually. He's terrible at Ancient for whatever reason, but on Inferno, Pit, oh my god, he actually won them so many rounds at Pro League. It was fascinating. Like, he is seriously a Pit specialist. He's so good at playing off of his teammates, using counter utility, making sure that either one stays alive forever, or sometimes he even gets a multi-frag from it, because sometimes on the second or third A hit, after he dumps his smoke, he'll just go for a swing that you don't expect if you're the opposing team, and then Norbert's going to just kill you in the side of the head. So he's actually
that's why he's a world champion, Maui. That's why he's a world champion at this game, son. That's why he's a world champion.
Hey, he's got one major. He's got a major.
Sadly, he does. We can't listen. We can't take it away from him. Like no matter what we say, he has a major. You win, Matt. You know, I actually fucking loved Nico and Guardian. Doesn't matter the existence. Fuck me. You win, Norbert. You get the major, mate. None of those great players. They don't get one. You get one though. Well done.
Norbert's just gonna hold up his finger and just say, "Count it." Count it. Count the ring. Count the ring. Kiss the
thing
ring.
is, most players aren't even good at that trash talk. Like low key, I can't even lie. If you actually did that to me at an event or something like that, if I looked over and you were just like, "What major?" I would be mad triggered if you had a picture of Nico and just ripped it in half or something. All of us were wild on stream. Do that on camera. Someone do that scene on camera and rip like a pit. In fact, pull out all three have an existence. Well, they won't know who the fuck that is. Whatever. They might know who Guardian is. Surely kids still know who Guardian is nowadays. That doesn't make me a boomer, does it? Knowing who Guardian is.
No, but just like the thing with VP being back and being actually good now is that I do like just how ridiculous their style is, because I'm still very much of the opinion that like if you take out the nameplates away from a lot of meddling teams in the rank 13 through 20 range, it's really hard to tell the difference in terms of their strategies. You're seeing a lot of teams just being really cyclical with just going through the strat book, trying this play out that they saw another team try. And so sometimes it feels very lifeless, but I know when I'm watching a VP game, and that's nice. It's even if I don't love it all the time, it's nice to know that there's still other people pushing different ideas into this space and we're not actually moving towards just dare I say, like refinement culture, and we're all just moving towards the exact same strategy. You know exactly what I'm referring to, unfortunately. But it's just the way that everything is becoming the exact same, it feels like, because there's just a simply best way to play the game. But no, James shows that that's not true, that there's something else out there.
Because the thing I can't handle is how come it does seem like, for real, it's like the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey, but James found his own obelisk, didn't he? And it just conveyed a different message entirely to him, and he's just like divergent evolutionary path that none of us accessed at any point. Go on then, Nero, what do you think? Here's the thing, if you're a stats guy, you've got to low-key love VP in some fucked up sense, right?
Yeah, it's like the defensive football coaches as well. It's just they're funny because of how much they trigger people.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You gotta love him. You gotta love him with the shit talk and everything. But it's and that's until you're having to write a match report for them at like 11 p.m. And you're just like, can you just stop now? But yeah, I think it's great. Like the scene is quite homogenized, like with all the international teams as well. Like it is like kind of hard to tell between teams. I think that's a really good point. But yeah, I think it's just an issue with like you kind of want gatekeepers that all have different styles, and I think that's exactly what we want VP to be, and I really like the Mir pickup as well. I feel like people just kind of, I don't know if it was personality or what, but I feel like people just kind of forgot how good he actually is, and I just do feel bad for Norbert as well, because like you said on Pit, he's quite good, but he's really getting the Sanji stuff now. Like some of the economy buys they're doing, where they have like even when they can afford AKs, they have two people on Tech 9s, and they just like do their opener. Like, did you see this? I think it was Inferno T-side against someone. So they had like 3 AKs, 2 Tech 9s, and they send the AKs up banana, and it's like, okay, well, and then like they get tagged to like 10 HP, and they just come back and throw another AK. But Norbert never gets the AK. It's never Norbert's turn on the AK. Once Norbert's got the AK, he's saving the AK for flip next round. Like it's completely fucked.
I like that.
But yeah, they're good for this scene. They're good to be here because it's just something different. And I know everyone comes at them for the saving, but what I kind of like about their saving is that it's actually not the best way to play. I kind of like that they're like, it's because it's kind of you think it's like the meta, like they've got the economy game dialed out in a way no one else does, but you see kind of how it works against them. Like I like how it's actually flawed in a way. Like I like how people haven't just completely copied them, because you can see that like the T's just have so much bigger a bank against VP. Like they need to win more gun rounds in a row to actually break them. Like that happens quite a lot, and but I do like that they have a different style. I'm just glad it's not broken the game and everyone copies them. I think.
By the way, on
where they're at.
On that point, I feel like that's something that's actually really lost, which is they even do this really weird thing in VP, if you've noticed, where sometimes on T side, they actually have money to do a full buy, and they just don't. They do like 3 people buy, and then the next round, like the other 2 take a turn to buy like the AK, and they essentially have like what's like a half buy, but if they lose, a bunch of rounds in a row. And what's weird about that is that actually is a little bit like what people did at the end of CS 1.6 as like an economy breaking move, which was back then, like people only used to do like a full buy or like a pure save to get the whole team back, and people started doing half buys, and essentially you would do it. So it was sort of like the super soldier concept. You do it because you had like a simple or Neo or Forest, and then the point is them on an AK may as well be 1.5 times a normal player, you know. But the weird thing is VP does it now, and what's weird about it is like the difference is what you just said there. I get why they do it on CT side. The reason it's really effective, like you said then, is you feel like if you're the T's, you never actually sure if they're saving. It actually makes it quite hard for you to know like what utility to use at the beginning of the round. Like, do you have to fully buy up again? Like, it does make you all. But the weird thing is when they do it on T side, I feel like it just kills them, dude. Like, it's like what's weird is it seems like you're right. It's not like they've just cracked something no one else has with the economy, because sometimes it seems like they get lost in their own buys. Like, I've seen some really weird ones in the last. What do you think, Maui? What about this aspect to the style? Because the late round stuff, they don't have to save this way to do it. They just seem to choose to do this as well. There seems to be another like Jame idiosyncrasy, right?
Yeah. The buy that Nero was referencing, I screenshotted that and posted on Twitter. I remember they were like, who were they playing against that one? I think it might have been
probably Liquid.
Or it might have been G2. It might have been G2, and they actually won. They actually won that. Yeah, they won that map where they were just doing these crazy buys. I would like, okay, my take on it is that, well, the trade-off is obviously that if you're going to save more frequently than other teams, you're obviously taking away opportunities for your teammates to clutch. And if you have good late round players who can find just ways to break into a post-plant defense, then you're not even going to let them try out their abilities and take a crack at it. Because as soon as you lose one player, like, I mean, it's the funniest thing is watching VP on CT side Inferno, and then you watch them literally lose one player at B, and they just don't even care. They never even tried moving. They literally knew immediately that the save was on. So, yeah, I mean, even sometimes they'll have utility and they won't even go for it, which is crazy to me. So, it's like you're just frequently you're playing Counter-Strike as if it's like a MOBA, and you're not even trying to like in MOBAs, you know, you kind of feel like you pull out of the team fight, you try to like regather and everything for the next team fight, just so that you don't lose everybody. And it really feels like VP kind of they think about deaths in a different way than other people, where it's almost like a cumulative number as opposed to round to round. I don't know. It's like, it's really, really strange to watch them sometimes, because they just take so fewer risks than other teams, and that's probably why they're less exciting. But it's kind of just whatever happens in the first 45 seconds for a lot of VP rounds for me, which is weird, but it's okay.
But that is based on stats though. It's like, I think it's like 72%. Like opening kills are like 72% win probability. Like it is completely based on stats. It's just like, I think it's a case of over optimization. It's like in football, like XG is this huge thing, right? But teams still take shots that are like not high XG, because you never know, like, it could hit a deflection, and like things can happen that change low probability chances into higher ones. And VP, I think, over optimize for, like, they always need to win the round the 70% way. They don't like because they've got star power. Like, these guys are good late round players, and they just never give them a chance. And I think, like, it's good for the scene that we have something different, but I don't think it's optimal, and I don't think but I like that they exist, basically. Yeah.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.